Okay, so this is section 2 of the QuickBook ProAdvisor exam. I've already posted section 1. I put section 2 up yesterday, but there were audio issues, so I'm redoing it. And I apologize for anyone who wasted their time watching that video. All right, so section 2 has the following topics: team users, sales tax, custom fields, custom forms, payments and banking, apps, and tags. So accountant and admin users can open the team menu from the Your Practice area of the left-hand navigation pane. And when you select team, you'll have 3 tabs: users, roles, and certifications. So the team tab opens up in the user tab by default. So when you click team, the first thing that comes up is the user screen. There you will see an overview of each firm's user role and status. From here, admin users can also edit a user's personal information and role. User roles are either billable or non-billable. Billable users count toward your user limit, while non-billable users don't. So remember, there are limits for different subscription levels. So roles that count toward your user limits are the primary admin, and remember that is during the setup, the owner's 99% of the time the primary admin, and that automatically will go to that role will automatically go usually to the owner. And then you have company admin, standard users, and if you're an advanced subscription user, then you'd have custom user. Roles that don't count toward the user limits are time tracking only users and report only users. And report only you can only have under a plus or advanced subscription level. So when you select add a new user, you're going to see these 2 groups. These count toward your user limit, and that would be your standard user and your company admin. And then the ones that don't are the report only and time tracking only. So if you're a QBOA, and most of you that are watching this video would be a QBOA user, you would go to the gear icon and you can select My Team, or as you saw a second ago, you can go in the left-hand navigation pane and select My Team. If you're a QBO user, so a small business user, they would go to the gear icon and select Manage Users. So then you would go to Add User, and then you can edit the user in their action column all the way to the right. Then you could select the user type, and then new users will receive an invite to join the company. You would ask them to select the link that's in the email, and then if they don't have an Intuit account, then they would create a new one. If they have one, they'll just sign in. So here are common users. You have the primary admin, the company administrator, the standard users. Those have a lot more access than the time tracking only. Those would be those that are using your timesheets, and report only. They're the ones that only have access to reports except payroll and list reports. So if you want to put this in your notes, freeze the screen and write those down in your notes. Standard users fall under these 5 categories. You have standard all access. Then you have standard limited customers only. So customers only to, if you want them just to have access to invoices, sales receipts, and so on. Standard limited suppliers only. So that means that they're just going to have access to your vendors, or standard limited customers and suppliers. And then you have standards no access. So some of the examples you see under this topic is if a general partner wants to allow their silent partner access to only their financial reports, what type of user would that silent partner be? So they'd be assigned to report only user, because you're only going to have them have access to reports. What user type is appropriate for nonprofit companies that need to provide reporting access to their board members? So I put this because I saw somebody said that the answer wasn't report only user. Instead, they had it as view company reports. So that's just the description of a report only user is. So they might not have the exact title that we use here. Maybe they have a description of it. So if you see view company reports, that is a report only user. Another question: what statements can be made about managing users in QuickBooks Online? Well, there are different user types to select from, and user levels of access and permissions can be customized. And when a new user is added, they need to follow the link they receive in their invitation email to sign in and get access. Another question is, how do you manage users in your client's QBO account? So if you're going through a regular QBO account like Plus Count or Advanced account, you would go to gear icon and select Manage Users. How would you manage users in a QBOA? So our account. So in our account, we would go to gear icon, your team, or you can go to team in the left-hand navigation pane. Another question, when setting up users, what would be needed and selected for an employee who only requires access to invoices and receive payments? So that would be a standard user, limited customers. Well, here's another question with that same answer. Which option would a client select in their manage user screen to give their worker access to create invoice but not print checks in their QBO company? And again, that would be standard user, limited customers. So there might be a couple of questions on this. Just be aware that if it's customers, you only want them to have access to invoices or receive payments or anything that goes along with the customers. If it's suppliers, then anything that goes along with vendors. Here's the last two questions. In the Overview tab of a client list, what filter can be applied only to show clients assigned to a specific team member? You would select Lead for that. And which two team user roles have permission to view and search for apps using the App tab in QBOA? That would be the Primary Admin and Full Access. Getting started by selecting taxes. So setting up your sales tax. If you're going to do that, you're going to go into your left-hand navigation pane and go click Tax tab. So once you go to the Taxes tab, that's where you see Set Up Sales Tax, and it walks you through that. So to enable sales tax within QBO, you need to navigate to your sales tax center. So again, you're clicking that Taxes tab in the left-hand navigation. If there's no rate set up, then you would select that Set Up Sales Tax. And you would follow the wizard to complete the information about your company. Sales tax rate and appropriate tax agencies need to be selected. This step is very important in making sure that the appropriate rates are tied to the appropriate agencies, that's state and local, and especially for future tax rate changes. So once you select that, if a tax rate change goes through, QuickBooks automatically populates that new tax rate for you. When setting up products and customers, make sure to identify the appropriate sales tax status. So for example, if you're setting up a customer, but it's a nonprofit, you would need to make sure you select exempt from taxes. Some key questions that you're going to ask your clients are, what is the company's address? When did their last tax period start? Which agencies do they need to pay sales tax to? When did they start collecting sales tax for each agency? What is their filing frequency, monthly or quarterly? And do they do business in more than one state? QuickBooks Online allows us to create custom tax rate. And you'll see if you take my video course, I have a 10 course chapter course video on using QuickBooks. We had to do that for one of our customers. So sometimes it doesn't populate correctly, and so you just have to override it and put the correct sales tax rate and the correct address in there. So here's some questions you might see under this topic. When choosing how sales forms appear in emails, which of the two options can be chosen? Actually, this is a question for a future topic. Summarize detail and full details. Here's another question. If a client calls you and expresses that they think sales tax isn't being calculated correctly, what should your client verify is correct? That the correct tax category is selected and that the tax is being calculated on the correct address. Your client is using automated sales tax and is about to create an invoice. What would you tell them about the importance of the location of sales field? Well, that address in that field determines how much sales tax is applied. So if you have the wrong address, you're going to be applying the wrong sales tax. When first setting up sales tax for a client, what information will be pre-populated? The business address. When the sales tax feature is enabled in QBO, where must you record sales tax payments? You would go to taxes and then the sales tax center. In QBO, what 4 data points do you need to set up sales tax for a client who only does this in their own home state? So you would need their company address, when they started collecting sales tax for the agency, how often they must file a tax return, and when their last tax period started. Now let's look at custom fields and custom form styles. So you go to the gear icon and you would see under your company custom form styles, and under list you would see custom fields. This is a QBO, let's say Plus account. So custom fields allows clients to add unique fields to their sales forms and or purchase orders. Custom form styles allows clients to create customized templates for their invoices, estimates, and sales receipts. Once you select your sales form to customize an invoice, an estimate, or sales receipt, you will then see that there are 3 tabs to choose from. That's design, content, and email. Let's look at that real quick. So if I go into my QuickBooks and I go to my gear icon, and under the first column, you should see custom form styles. This is the second one down. See, it looks a little different than the picture. The picture I had up a second ago was a QBO Plus account. So here I have a standard invoice that I made for my own company. So there's my picture. Nicole, the business instructor. This is really just a sample. So this is the first tab, design. And this is where you can dive into using different templates, making logo edits, splashing colors, choosing appropriate fonts, and then printing. The next part is content. And that's where you have different sections. You have the header, footer. So we won't get into that. I would say play with this if you'd like to kind of get an idea of how to use that part. And then the last one is emails. And this is where you're critiquing whether there's full details or summarized details in your email, or if you're attaching a PDF, if you want to do like a hard copy that they could print out. And then your message to your customer, you can have a greeting, right? And here's mine. We appreciate your business. Please find your invoice details here. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Have a great day. Nicole, the business instructor. And then if you scroll down just a little, this is where you could do a follow-up reminder email. So this is those 3 tabs we were just talking about. Exit without saving. All right. So that is your custom form styles. The next one is custom fields. So custom fields is available starting at QuickBooks Online Essentials subscription, because you can have up to 3 under sales forms. Now, Essentials, they don't have access to purchase orders, only Plus and Advanced, so then they wouldn't have any. They would only have 3 on the sales form. Notice Simple Start doesn't have this feature at all. And for custom fields, for Plus, you can have up to 3 shared. So shared between sales forms and purchase orders. And then for the Advanced, they have up to 12 active custom fields for purchase order, sales forms, and expense forms, and up to 12 for customer profiles, vendor profiles, and projects. So let's look at custom fields. And this is the last one I'm going to do because I know this video is quite lengthy for me. So I'm going to go to gear icon, and in the second one under all lists, you'll see custom fields. You're going to select that. And custom fields is where you can set up on sales receipts, invoice estimates, credit memos, or refund receipts, a specific field that would come up. So for me, I put sales rep and PO number. So that means that when I do an invoice, that's going to pop up there. I'm going to have a section for me to add in a sales rep and a PO number. I can add another one if I want to on here. So that means that you're telling QuickBooks, I want these custom fields set up on my sales forms. Okay. And I could show you let me go back. Just take a second to, when I was looking at that invoice under my custom form, if I look here at the invoice, let's go back to my email. You see it here, PO number and sales rep. That's on here because I put that in my custom fields. That's why it's in my custom form here, my invoice. All right. So here are some sample questions you'll see in this topic. A client has expressed that he would like his customers to see full invoice details from within the email itself and have a PDF attached, let's say for them to print out for their records. What area within QBO must he access? He would go to gear icon and custom form styles. You saw where we went there because we went to the 3rd tab over to email. Question number 2. What are the 3 sections in the content tab of the custom form style tool? It's header, table, and footer. That was the part that I kind of skipped because I feel like that's a little bit more detailed for, just a regular ProAdvisor exam. We'll revisit this when we go to advanced if you choose to get advanced certification. So that was that 2nd tab. And the 3 sections are header, table, and footer. When choosing how sales forms, let's say invoice, estimates, or sales receipts, appear in email, what options can be chosen in the custom form style under emails. The two options are full details or summarized details. Which 5 options for customizing invoices can you access via the custom form styles, new style invoice? So that was that first tab, and I went over each one of these with you. Select a template, add a logo, choose font, choose color scheme, or edit with print settings. Now, I doubt you'd have a question asking you for all 5. You're probably going to have a question where they have 2 or 3 of these. So just have all of them in your notes and you'll know what the answer is, because they might throw in, setting up a questionnaire. You know that that's not in the list, so you could skip that. That is not one of the things that you would have, have an option of customizing. So just have all 5 of these in and you'll know which ones are the answers. How can custom fields be accessed from QuickBooks Online? You would go to gear icon and custom fields. What is the lowest subscription level of QBO that allows custom fields to be added to purchase orders? That would be a Plus account, because remember, Plus and Advanced are the only ones that do purchase orders. What subscription level of QBO allows custom fields to be added to sales forms? That would be Essentials, Plus, and Advanced, because remember, Essentials, you could do the sales forms. So you would add Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. You can do custom fields with sales form. Customer payments. With QuickBooks Payments, you can attach a Pay Now button to online invoices. So a second ago when I showed you my invoice, if I chose to send that to somebody in an email, if I set up QuickBooks Payments, I can have a little radio button, you call it, and it'll say Pay Now, and my client can click that Pay Now, and it would go through the process of them paying that bill. So customers can pay through a button by credit card, debit, Apple Pay, or ACH bank transfers. Payments will be deposited automatically and your books updated. Clients using QuickBooks Payments have access to 3 features: payment links, that's the one we're talking about here, instant deposits, and QuickBooks Go Payment. The primary admin of the QuickBooks Online company should connect QuickBooks Payments. The accountant should not be the primary admin of any QBO account, and therefore should also not set up the QBO payment account. Clients need to set up that because it is actually a contract. So when they set up the QuickBooks payment, they're signing a contract. So if you were to set it up, then you'd be signing that contract, and that's unethical. So you need to make sure that the company's primary admin sets up the QuickBooks payments. So let's look at those 3 that we talked about. Payment links. Clients can share a payment link with their customers in emails, messages, or even social media. Payment links can be set up in 2 ways. You could do a one-time link where as soon as they do it, they pay it and it expires. But you can do multi-use links, and this would set up multiple customers and they could use it multiple times. And that's really good for, ticket sales or event sales, or sending it to a customer who regularly pays on a regular basis. Then you have instant deposits. With QB payments, it could take a few days sometimes for money to get into your account. So you can sign up for instant deposit, and then that'll cost you 1% of your transaction. So you would have up to a maximum of $2,000. And then you can set that up, and it can be done up to 3 times a day, the instant deposit. QuickBooks Go Payments is a feature where you have mobile point of sales app. So you would have a mobile device that you would connect to a mobile card reader, and then you can. So this would be, I had a client years ago that had a van service, and they would transport from one town to another. And that was one of the things she had a phone, and she had a mobile device set to it that the person, whoever she was driving, was able to use their credit card through her phone, and she had this app, QuickBooks Go Payments. Payments should be batched together for a large deposit or until cleared, and that would go into the chart of account called undeposited funds. Once the deposit clears, you want to make sure that you change it from undeposited funds to the correct bank account. So here's some questions in the section we just looked at. If your client is allowing a customer to make installment payments, but you want to group together all the multiple payments in one deposit, what account should you use while you're receiving the installment payments? You would use undeposited funds, or you might see it as undeposited funds / payment to deposit. Where should a client initiate the setup of QuickBooks Payments? They would go to the gear icon, account and settings. They click the payment tab, and then Another way to say this, because you might see this as an answer in the answer key, the payment tab in accounts and settings. Why should the client set up for QB payments and not the accountant user? Because setting up QB payments constitutes a contract, and they should be signing that contract. Which is correct regarding setting up QuickBooks payments account for a client? The accountant should not activate QuickBooks payments on behalf of their client, and then the primary admin should be the one activating QB payments. A client reports that they recorded customer payments against open invoices and still does not see the payment on the bank deposit screen. You can have them check which field on the received payment screen to verify the payment was properly linked to the account. You would go to the deposit field, the deposit to field. So when you go to deposit to, it'll tell you if it's linked properly to the correct bank account. Paying with Melio. Bill Pay powered by Melio is a free integrated payment solution that allows QuickBooks Online users to pay business bills from anywhere. It makes managing cash flow and paying bills easier. During the two-way sync setup, a payment account in Melio must be mapped to either a credit card or a checking account from your client's QBO. And if it isn't, Melio will create an account automatically. Some businesses like to use a money out clearing account for a third-party payment service. I did a video of that about 1.5 years ago talking about third-party money out clearing accounts. Once your payment account in Melio is mapped to the correct checking account or credit card account, then the client can check the bill by going to the payment screen and make sure that the proper account was linked to the payment. So these are 2 questions that they might have on Melio. Where would your client navigate to view the status of bill payment that was paid using Bill Pay powered by Melio? They would go to Open Bill Payment, and then they'd view the online payment. Where would your client navigate to view the status of a bill payment that was paid using Bill Pay by Melio? They can open the bill payment screen and then verify the proper payment account was used. So those are 2, the questions are the same, but they're just kind of worded differently. So have both of them in your notes. Vendor payments, and that's QuickBooks Bill Pay. With QuickBooks Bill Pay, clients can stream their accounts payable process by paying all their bills from QuickBooks Online. It allows the clients to schedule future payments and to never miss a deadline or incur any late fees. Each time clients schedule a payment, they can choose the payment account and payment method. QuickBooks Bill Pay allows the client to then send the check or the ACH payment to the vendor quickly and easily. So look, the other 2 that we were talking about, that was when customers are paying us. Now we are paying our vendors, or your client, the small business owner is paying their vendor. So another benefit of Bill Pay is that the vendor, they don't need to create a QuickBooks Bill Pay account to get paid. All they need to do is choose whether they want to get paid via check or by ACH bank transfer. So this is what I took a little snippet from the test site, the Craig's Landscaping, to show you what the screen looks like. And so this is the QuickBooks Bill Pay. And you have 3 accounts you can choose from. The basic is free, so that's $0. And then you have premium, which is $7.99, and elite, which is $45.99. So again, I always tell you with this, you can Google it. I didn't want to go into it any further. You can Google and look at it. I don't think there's any questions on that. All right, using QuickBooks Bill Pay, what are ways for payment? Your client can pay bills directly from QuickBooks with their bank account, and they can use a debit or credit card. And then they can choose how their vendor receives the payment, which would be either ACH bank transfer or a check. So one of the huge game changers in the last couple of years for QuickBooks Online was the bank feed function. So this is where your client can set up their bank. Let's say you have a couple of them. Maybe you have PNC Bank and Bank of America. You set up a bank feed where every time any transaction is incurred, then immediately that is sent to your QBO account. So the bank feed function in QuickBooks Online automatically imports money in and money out payments into the banking center. So your client always has up-to-date information about their bank balances. QuickBooks Online then helps to keep the client's book accurate by matching these payments to sales and expense transactions that have already been logged in. The bank feed also allows the clients to add transactions to QBO that haven't yet been recorded. So how would we set this up? Now, this is something that's different because if you look at our 2023 video, it looks a little different because to access the bank center, we had to go to the left-hand navigation and click banking. Now, the new way to do it is you would go to the left-hand navigation and click transactions. And then I believe it's the first option, banking transactions. So you go to transactions in the left-hand navigation and then you select banking transactions. Then you would select connect account. And then it would look like this. You would go connect account. Unless you've already set up, unless you have a client that's already set up. If they have a client that's already set up, then you would go to link account. So if you're linking a new account, you would go to link account. If you're creating a brand new connection, you would go to connect account. Then you select what bank, and then you sign into that bank just like you would to your online banking. And then you need to make sure that you select the bank account from the chart of accounts. If you don't already have that set up in the chart of accounts, then you would go to add new and put what bank account you want it to look like, what chart of account, checking account. So you might have Bank of America checking. Then you want to choose the account type and the detail type. Give the account a name, and we're talking about on your banking tile, and then click save. Now in the 2023 video, I did look physically in QBO on this, although it's a little different as far as the screen and how you get there. You might want to look at that video if you would like to visualize what we're talking about here. So here's what I have for you now. You would go to transactions and you would select banking transactions. And this is what the bank tiles look like. So the bank tiles are set up here. And this one has checking, savings, and MasterCard. But you can put it in any order. You can highlight. So we'll look at that in a second. So the bank feed for the selected account tile can be seen underneath that tile. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So we selected checking. So under here is the checking account. And then you have 3 tabs: for review, categorize, and excluded. I can't really see that, but I know that that's what it says. All right. So the bank feed for the selected account tile can be seen underneath that tile. The bank feed defaults to the for review tab. From here, clients can review all of their transactions. If QBO identifies potential matches for a specific bank transaction, then it'll be flagged there as a match. Clients can then review these suggestions and see if it is a correct match. If it's a correct match, then they'll select it and then it'll be paired together. If it's not, then you can exclude it. Now, sometimes you might have a bank transfer that, came in as doubled. Then you would have to get rid of that. And that would consider, you would exclude any errors or mismatches. The first thing you need to do is make sure so if you have any bank connectivity issues, the first thing you need to do is refresh your page or your bank feed. So to refresh your bank feed on the bank transfer tab, you would see update. So you would select update in the banking center to refresh it. Updating bank info. So let's say your client needs to update their account number, username, or password. Maybe they changed it. You need to make sure you changed it also in QuickBooks Online. So to do that, you'd go to your bank feed, you'd go to the banking transaction, and then you'd go to that banking tile, and you would go to the little pencil icon. And when you click that pencil icon, these are the 2 things you'll see: edit sign-in info or edit account info. So in this case, if you needed to change username or password, you would select edit account info and you would update the info as needed. Sometimes you have to disconnect your bank. I've had to do that from some clients that felt it was overwhelming to have their bank feed coming in on a regular basis. So to do that, you would then go to the banking tile, you'd select the pencil icon, you'd select the edit account info, and then a pop-up window would come up and you would click on or check the checkbox that says disconnect this account, and then you would save it. And then once you do that, all the transactions that you had in the for review tab will then go away because the account wouldn't be connected anymore. So here's some questions in this section. A client can connect all of their bank accounts to their banking center in QuickBooks Online. Let's say they use Bank A and Bank B, but they use Bank A more. How could they distinguish between them in the banking center? So they can use the bank name and account name. So for example, you can have Chase checking and Bank of America checking. This way you can clearly see the difference between the 2 checking accounts. Another way is you can rearrange the order of the file. So if you know you use Bank A more, then you would put that first. You'd put Bank A first and then Bank B. I'm sorry. When disconnecting a bank feed in QuickBooks Online, what happens to the transaction in the review tab? All transactions that haven't been categorized yet will be removed from the for review tab because you've disconnected that bank. Here's a third question. Where should you go to link a new bank account in a client's QBO company? You'd go to the banking center. And again, to access the banking center now, you would go to transactions. That's in the left-hand navigation. And then you go to banking transactions. Here's another question. What should be done to refresh the bank feed? You would select the update button that's in the banking center. What 2 actions can you do to edit the account info on the bank account tile in the banking center? You can change the account name or you can change user access to that account. That would be like your username and password. What if a client's bank info or their email was compromised and they need to update their banking password? Where would you direct them to go? Well, they would have to go to their bank center. And then in the bank tab, you would select, and the bank tab is that bank tile I was talking about. You would select account tile. You'd go to the pencil icon and you'd select edit sign-in info. The next topic we're going to look at is apps. Apps are third-party companies who provide services and solutions customized for QBO subscribers. Apps are an easy way to boost your firm's productivity and reduce busy work. Clients or account users with admin access can see all the apps available from the App Center on the left-hand navigation pane. However, even without a QBO account, anybody can browse integratable apps by going to apps.com, https apps.com. And that's where you'd be able to find all QBO apps. If accessing the App Center from the left-hand navigation, clients will see Find Apps tab. Here, clients can browse categories. So if you select the Browse Category search bar, you would be able to browse by specialty or business processes. Or you could type in the most popular search word key, the search keywords. By scrolling down, you can then see pre-selected app categories such as the popular or highly rated ones or free apps. QBOA users have 3 tabs in their App Center, and that would be Find Apps, Firm Apps, and Client Apps. So here are some questions. Where are 2 places you can search for apps that work in QBO? That would be the Apps tab, or you can go to www.apps.com. Where can you search for apps by specialty or business process? You would go to Browse Category. It's a little search bar. When logged into QBO Accountant, where can you view apps that are connected to your client's QBO? You would go to Apps, and then you'd go to the Client's App tab. Which 3 of these are among the details and transactions imported using the Apps Transaction tab in QBO? You can find details like fee breakdowns, quantity, and customer name. Which 3 benefits are there for using apps in QBO? They can provide additional insight into various parts of a business. They can solve specific industry needs, and they can reduce time spent on data entry. And here's the last question. Where can QBOA users see which apps are connected to the client's account? Another way to do it is you can go to Overview and then Company Setup, and that's where you see your client's apps. So Overview, Company Setup is another way. Tags. Tags are customizable labels that let you track transactions however you'd like. You can group tags together and run reports to see how specific areas of your business are doing. They don't impact your books in any way financially. Instead, they're just a way for your team to track the info that matters to you most. And how do you get to that? Well, first you need to make sure that you have your tags turned on. So either way, to turn them on or off, you go to the gear icon, you go to Accounts and Settings, you go to the Sales tab, and then you would see the tags. So if you were turning it off, you would then slide it off to the left. If you wanted a completely disabled tag, so you just went to the Sales tab in the Accounts and Settings and you turned it off. But if you wanted a completely disabled tag, you would also have to go to the Expenses tab. So you'd go to the gear icon, Accounts and Settings, you go to the Expenses tab, and then you would see in the I think it's the first or second section, it would say Show Tags field on expense and purchase forms. You want to move that slider to the left and then click Save, and then you would completely disable tags if you didn't want to use them. Then if you change your mind and later want to use them, then you would be able to just reverse those two things you did. So here are current tag status. I say current because this changes on a regular basis. So right now, tags can be added to estimates, invoice, sales receipts, credit memos, refund receipts, delayed charges, delayed credits, expenses, checks, bills, purchase orders, vendor credits, credit card credits, and bank deposits. But they cannot be added to general journal entries, transfers, time entries, pay down credit card transactions, customers, vendors, products, services, employees, and payroll items. So here's some questions. What type of transaction can be tagged? So we just looked at the chart right now. So what can be is delayed credit, purchase order, bank deposits, invoice, and etc. You can write down, take a picture of that list or write it down in your notes. What cannot be? Journal entries, transfers, customers, and etc. Whatever I had on the screen before. So make sure you have those in your notes. How do tags input your client's report totals? They don't impact your books directly. They're more of a tracking tool. What are customizable labels that clients can assign to transactions of their choice? That'd be tags. Where can you see the number of tags and tag groups created? You go to gear icon and then tags. So that's how you access tags. Gear icon and then select tags. Where would you go to disable tags? So there's two places. If we're talking about sales forms, you go to gear icon, accountant settings, and then sales tab. And then you go to sales form content section and turn it on or off. With the expense form, you go to gear icon, accountant settings, expense tab, and then the bills and expenses section, you turn off the show tags field on expense and purchase forms. So one of the last sections we're going to look at is estimates and copying to purchase orders. So some companies first provide their clients with an estimate, also known as a quote, bid, or proposal for work that you plan to do. The form looks similar to an invoice, but instead of charging your customer, you're just giving them proposed product or services and their costs. Then when the work is done and you're ready to invoice your customer, you can convert that estimate to an invoice so you don't have to enter it in twice. To create an estimate, you can do it any of these three ways. You can go to + new and then go to estimate under customers, or you can go to sales tab on the left-hand navigation pane and go to estimates, or again in the sales tab in the left-hand navigation pane, you go to all sales, then you click on new transaction, drop down and go to estimate. Any estimates created by a customer are saved in the sales center. From here, clients can easily view and manage their estimates in the all sales tab, filtering by transaction type. Creating a purchase order from an estimate helps streamline the purchasing process after a customer approves that estimate. First, make sure you have purchase orders on. So you want to make sure that you have the ability to do a purchase order, and by checking that, you'd go to gear icon, accountant settings, you go to the expense tab, and then you would make sure your purchase order is on. Clients using QuickBooks Online Plus and Advanced can create purchase orders from an estimate. Remember, earlier Essential or Simple Start, they're not able to do purchase orders. So this would only work for your clients that have Plus or Advanced. So they'd go to the gear icon, accountant settings, just as we said a second ago, expense tab, make sure your use purchase order slider is switched on. Another key thing you need to do is make sure that for the product and service items that they want to use, that the client had set them up or needs to edit to set them up to I purchased this product service from a vendor. It's important that that checkbox is checked in order for that product or service to be able to be brought up on that purchase order. Finally, then you're ready to switch your estimate to a purchase order. So from the left-hand navigation pane, you're going to go to sales, and then you're going to go to all sales. On the money bar, you're going to select the estimate box. From the action column, you're going to edit. And then you'll see that you can select to copy to purchase order. So from the drop down, you would go create invoice and then select copy to purchase order. Okay, so those are the steps. So here are some questions you might see here. A client selects copy to purchase order. Why might a product or service item not appear? Well, remember I said your product or service item must have selected a checkbox that the product service item, I purchased this product service item from a vendor. So that checkbox has to be marked. What is the lowest subscription level of QBO that allows custom fields to be added to purchase orders? So remember, purchase orders is the plus account. Whenever you see purchase order, whatever question might have that has to do with purchase order, it has to be at least a plus account because only plus and advance accept purchase orders. What should you do to streamline the purchase process once the client approves the estimate? You should create a purchase order from that estimate. If you don't see the copy to purchase order feature from within an estimate, where do you go to make sure that you're able to use purchase order? You go to gear icon, accounts and settings, go to expenses, and make sure you have purchase orders on. What are 4 status types that could be assigned to an estimate in QuickBooks Online? Pending, rejected, accepted, and closed. Which feature helps streamline the purchasing process once a customer approves an estimate? Making sure they're able to create a purchase order from that estimate. And then where would you go to create a new estimate? Remember, it's 3 things. So it's going to be one of these three things. Make sure you have all 3 of them in your notes. Plus sign new estimates, sales and estimates, or sales, all sales, new transaction estimate. So have all 3 of them. It probably would only have one of them in there, but if you have all of them in your notes, you're fine. All right, and then I added in just a couple of more questions that might be in there. I haven't seen them here recently, but you never know where they might squeeze them back in. So if you were in a QBO Plus account and you went to your gear icon, on the very bottom of that gear icon pop-up screen, you would see business view or accountant view. So here's a question. How can you switch from accountant view to business view in your QBO? You would go to gear icon and you would select switch to business view. Again, I'm trying to help you visualize this. You can actually go on and check for yourself. You can't do it, look at it through QBOA. You'd have to go into like the test drive, or you'd have to go into one of your clients' accounts. It would be on a QBO, let's say plus account. You would go to the gear icon and on the bottom right, you would select switch to business view. And here's another one, OAuth. So OAuth stands for open authorization. It means that your client no longer has to provide their banking username and password because it's saved for them during the initial setup. What connection method eliminates, here's a question, what connection method eliminates the need to provide a bank username and password? The answer would be OAuth. And then what 2 statements are true when creating an OAuth bank connection in QBO? Most banks require that the primary account holder is the one that establishes the OAuth connection to the bank. And then here's another one. Not all banks and financial institutions support the OAuth bank connection. Now, I don't think QBO is pushing it as much, so they took these questions out, but still have them in your notes. So I finally have section 2 back up. I plan to get section 3 up in the next week. Remember, there's 5 sections here. You can work ahead of me by, studying in your module section of the training in the ProAdvisor. Also, make sure you're not just solely, you should be supplementing and studying in that section. Don't solely rely on my videos. All right, thank you for watching.